I can play League for like 12 or 13 hours straight, like solo queue and stuff like that, you know? But back then I actually played like tournaments where we only had like 4 matches. After the second one, I was dead, exhausted like hell.
They are young. They earn a lot of money. And they are famous all around the globe for playing a game. This is the official podcast of a professional esports team. These are the ESPORTS ROCSTARS. This is episode 6 of ESPORTS ROCSTARS. The regular season of Spring Split 2018 just ended with the matches of the last weekend, and we did it. The team managed to enter playoffs, so has to focus completely on the upcoming challenges. So today I would like to interview someone who is not supposed to play in the upcoming matches and someone who is not supposed to look after the players. Today's guest is my co-host. Please welcome KaJun.
Hello.
Hi there. You are in this podcast from the very beginning, but it's the very first time that you are the guest, the interview partner.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure actually.
But it also feels good, doesn't it? Please,
I'm not sure. I don't have to prepare.
Please introduce yourself very briefly.
Okay. So I'm Tian. So yeah, KaJun is my full name, but Gia is more like a generation name. We Chinese like to do.
Okay.
And
so Tian is your real
like first name.
First name.
Because all my cousins and my brother have the same name. The first one. Yeah. My gamer tag is KaJun. Probably most of you know me as the Roccat Reddit guy. Yeah.
The famous Roccat Reddit guy. You are the head of social media. At Roccat. We're sitting here, by the way, in Hamburg in the Roccat podcast studio, and you are doing all the social media stuff that goes around with Roccat for years now. Many people out there know you. You are famous as, like I said, the Roccat Reddit guy, and something happened, right?
Yeah, I got some help. And the funny thing is, I hired somebody through the subreddit of League of Legends. So Mario, you probably know Mario now. Yeah, he helps me manage the account nowadays, since September, I think, last year. And I hired him through Reddit because his nickname was Leuchtrakete, which is German for like light rocket. And he had a fanatic flair. So I was like, hey, dude, you have this name, Rocket, you should have the rocket flare. And then somehow we got into talking, and then he's like, if you need help with like community management, blah, 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 you can contact me somehow. I was like, yeah, just send me your CV. Yeah. And then we'll look at it. And that's how he ended up here.
Finding the new dream job via Reddit.
Yeah. So I can see it already. People were like hammering my comments. Oh, hey, do you guys need somebody?
Yeah.
No, we have Mario now. So some comments now on the subreddit are not from me directly anymore.
Okay, so there are 2 guys behind the Roccat Reddit guy right now.
Yeah, I would say it's like 60-40. Like 60% still me and 40% him. Yeah,
all
like
right.
the really spicy stuff is from him.
The really spicy stuff.
Yeah. Like the Evelyn Jankos comment was from him. I would never do that to Jankos. I love Jankos.
Okay. So, all right, Tian. I won't let you get away without answering the usual 10 quick questions. Are you ready?
No.
Let's go. What's your favorite food and drink?
Favorite food and drink? Drink. Probably Coke.
Oh,
really? I'm trying to drink less and less Coke.
And your favorite food?
And food, it's it's a Vietnamese dish. It's called gom dam. I don't know if I pronounce it right.
Gom dam.
Yeah, but it's like rice and steak and egg. And
sounds good.
Pickles is really good.
What's your favorite League of Legends champion?
Wukong, by far.
Wukong, who is that?
It's the Monkey King.
It's a Monkey King. Why do you like him?
I grew up with the lore, like the Journey of the West. lore.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Ball came, so I was like all into Son Goku. And then Wukong is the natural progression, since Wukong is the same person like Son Goku, and Son Goku is the same person as Son Wukong.
All right.
Monkey King from Journey to the West.
You can morph into one League of Legends champion in real life. Which one do you choose and why?
Still Wukong.
Because you like to be a monkey.
Yeah, he can like clone himself, so he can make like multiple clones. He can morph into whatever he wants to.
Oh, that would fly. That would be a real helpful skill in everyday life.
Yes, and he can somersault. Like if he does one somersault, he travels like a far distance. I can't remember what the distance was. There was like a special skill for it.
But the clone thing could also be very disturbing if you have a date with your girlfriend maybe, and she asks, "Hey, is it you or is it your monkey clone?"
But the clone acts like you, so you like the way it works is he pulls out a hair.
Yeah.
And every hair can be like a clone.
Oh dear.
So he can send a clone on a date, and the real one is like playing, can game all day.
Nice.
And then you send one to work. It's unbelievable. And he's cocky as fuck. So I like
that. What's your favorite game of all time?
Favorite game of all time?
Beside League of Legends.
Yes. I wouldn't say League of Legends. I think it's a really good game, and I played it probably the longest. But I think Ocarina of Time. Legend of Zelda.
Zelda Ocarina of Time?
That was like mind-blowing back then with the Nintendo 64.
Nice.
Like Super Mario was really, really awesome already.
Yeah.
Like that would be probably second. And
Super Mario 64.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And GoldenEye was awesome as well. It would be probably my third best game.
GoldenEye? Oh my god.
So insane. And Super Smash.
Yeah, but the graphic was really weird in GoldenEye, right? These heads, these faces.
But it was the first time where you were shooting like at real people, I think.
Yeah.
And ever. Before that, nobody like tried to make it happen that you can shoot at like people.
Yeah.
I think before that it was always monsters or whatever. But yeah, Legend of Zelda blew my mind. Like, you know, like where you can go fishing. You can go fishing for like a whole day. I could do that for a whole day. So fun.
What's your favorite music?
I listen to a lot of music or different kind of genres. But usually my main one is like R&B, soul, hip-hop kind of thing.
What do you love the most about being a professional esports player? This is the normal question.
You can ask me.
Yeah, but I can ask you like.
I was a substitute.
Yeah, you was a substitute. You were a substitute player. We will talk about that.
Okay.
What do you really love about being in that business? About the whole esports business?
I like that it's like already pretty big, but still so niche. Like if I go on a public road and ask like 10 people, probably 9 out of 10 don't know what esports is.
Yeah.
But it's already so big. So there's like a really big potential to esports. And for me, esports is also one of the sports that is like globally played, accepted, you know? Like I think the second best thing after that is football or soccer for the Americans. But like football is not really big in the US, for example, or India or something like that. But for League of Legends, you know, like the youth in every country is playing it. Maybe not Japan because they play more console, but still, it's huge. And
it's not that famous in Japan, no?
I think Japan is more like a console market.
Okay.
I think it's still famous there, but it's not that huge of a market since they all have Switch and stuff like that. And I like that it becomes more and more like sports, you know. Since I have a really sporty background as well, I can see how it evolves into like a more sporty type thing. From like just being like 5 people together in a LAN and just playing to this. So it's really exciting to see that.
And what do you honestly hate about the esports business or about this whole world?
Do I hate about it?
Or what do you dislike?
Nothing really. But maybe that it might get too big too fast.
Yeah.
So people getting into the business that don't have like this kind of love for gaming, you know. So it's not really hating, but I fear that maybe it will burst like a big bubble, you know.
Everyone wants a piece of the cake.
Exactly, and then like people getting involved who don't care about the game.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But isn't that always the danger of things that grow fast? That they get too mainstreamy. I think it's always the same.
It's not about like being mainstream that people of all kinds like it.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome since gaming is so relevant. But I mean, more like people investing money and then the first rope bump comes up, and they will just pull out, you know. So, How do I say
you mean people that just invest money because they want to make a quick dollar and don't really care about it.
Yeah. Or people just
So question number 8 is usually when you're preparing for a match, do you have any rituals?
Yes. No.
So if you are preparing for a match, maybe a normal match at home against friends or whatever in your private space.
Does it need to be gaming or?
Oh no!
I had rituals in sports.
I almost forgot. You play American football.
Yeah, but before that, like I did 8 years of swimming.
Oh right,
yeah,
really?
My ritual there was always when you were staying at the block.
Yeah,
the starting block. There's like numbers.
Yeah,
so I was like drawing the number with my hand. It was like my ritual to get focused before.
That's not a ritual. You're just a psychopath.
No, that's a ritual. And then for football, do I have a ritual there? I think the whole team has like a ritual. You know? Like you always have the same steps before the game, like warm up, walk through, get dressed. You know, then pass check. So this is kind of like a ritual that you don't do usually. Yeah. So if you do it on game day, it takes you into the mood. And also, like the jersey, you know, I never see the jersey except on game days. So that alone puts me in the mood. But I go stretch a lot. Like before the game, I just put on my headphones and then go stretch and run a little bit.
Tian, you are stranded on a lonely island. What are your 3 items you take with you?
Is Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, that's good.
Is it a sunny island? Or does it rain?
We don't know it. We don't know it yet.
Okay, then something, I don't know, like some kind of like tent material. Yeah. I don't know how you call it in English, like rain approved.
Yeah. In German, you would say a plane. I don't know how to say that in English. A surface.
A rain shelter.
A rain shelter for your tent, yeah.
And then the third one would be...
no personal...
Matchbox.
What box? Matchbox.
So I can have fire.
No personal items. You just want to survive.
Fuck it, though. I just want to survive.
You fuck it. You don't just want to survive. Yes. And the last and most important question: which key is best for Flash? D or F?
D.
Okay. Now you, dear listeners, know it for all times. Okay, Tian. Let's talk about you and your biography.
I'm really curious now. What you're gonna ask me?
When someone meets you the first time, it's a bit strange because you have an Asian name, you look Asian, but you speak perfect German, and your family, like I know, comes from Sweden. So what the hell did happen?
Okay, so see you in 1 hour if you don't want to listen to that. No. So originally I'm Chinese, but my grandparents moved to Vietnam, or just my grandparents, I think. Yeah, just my grandparents. They moved to Vietnam. And my parents both were born in Vietnam, in Saigon. And unfortunately, the war was there, and then economics was going down, so they flee. Like for my mom's side, my uncle flee, and then he went to Sweden, or he came to Sweden. So you have to imagine how it works. There was like this wooden fisher boats. and with like 50 people on it.
Wow, the Vietnamese boat people.
Exactly, the boat people. And that's how my father came here as well. Yeah. So they just went into the ocean, and we were like praying to survive somehow and get picked up by some kind of ship. So on my mom's side, I think he stranded on in Indonesia in like a camp. Mm-hmm. And then somehow he got to Sweden. And Sweden was like, yeah, get your whole family over, we will pay for it. So that's maybe important for later, how I have a Swedish citizenship. So my mom went to Sweden, and my dad flew by himself, and he was on a boat, and he got really lucky. He was already off after like 2 days because of the German ship, Kap an der Mur, by Robert Neudeck.
What was the name of the ship?
Kap an der Mur.
Kap an der Mur.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a joint, like it was a legal ship, like it still exists, like the Kap an der Mur. They're in the Middle Sea now, rescuing the Africans, and it was also like that. It was illegal for them to do it actually, but they just did it.
Yeah.
So this professor just did it because he felt like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And actually, a cook. What is his name? Biolek. This TV.
The TV cook, German TV cook Alfred Biolek.
Exactly. He helped him to gain to get like. It was like a charity fund.
Yeah.
And he promoted it, and it got like really big. And then they chartered this ship, and went to the sea and rescued people. So that's where my father ended up. And then most Vietnamese back then, they wanted to go to the US. And my father actually had the chance to go because his sister was already in the US. But he was like, yeah, a German ship rescued me, so I go to Germany. So that's how he ended up here in Hamburg. And then they got married because his family knew the family of my mom's. So my grandma told him to visit them in Sweden. And that's how it got started. So I was born in Germany, in Hamburg. And because of my mom, I had the right to get a Swedish citizenship. And my parents decided to give me the Swedish one first, since it's way easier for me to get the German one because I was born here. And that's this. And I never changed it. Why should I? It's just the EU. And was there something else?
Yeah,
I spent a year in America.
Oh wow! Okay. I wondered that you. It's really amazing that you know so much about your family and your grandparents and going back so long.
Yes, it's a really
interesting
crazy
story.
It's a really crazy story.
Yeah.
I hope somebody will make a movie out of it because it's really insane. And for my parents, it was really easy, you know. Like I don't know what my uncle did, but most of the people back then they don't talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if you get on the ship and pirates came from Thailand, they just rape every girl, you know. But they don't talk about it nowadays anymore. So you know. So it's like a really, I think they're all traumatized.
Yeah, probably.
So my dad is probably traumatized as well, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he left the country when he was 17, and that was the last time he saw his parents as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really crazy story. So it's actually similar to the Syrians right now, you know. But don't.
Wow, we're getting really serious right now,
and
but
not
that's
political. Yeah.
But that's really interesting as well. Yeah.
So that's how most Vietnamese people came. Actually, they stranded here in Hamburg. So for most people who don't know, Hamburg is like usually the gate to the world. That's the city name. So for a lot of Vietnamese, it was actually the gate to a whole new world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's most of the South Vietnamese. Like like in Berlin, there's a lot of North Vietnamese. They came here to work. So they didn't take the same way like the South Vietnamese did. But yeah, it's crazy story. And also, most of the Vietnamese that came, they were Chinese, because it was really expensive to do that. So like $10,000. So that's a lot of money, even for like German standards.
Yeah.
So most of them like are like me, like second generation Chinese who grew up in Vietnam. And yeah, like Sriracha is same tribe. Like it's a really special tribe in China. Like they're really famous for doing business, like Chiu Jiao. That's how they call him. And yeah, one guy did like the Sriracha thing, and he's like a billionaire now. You know? Sriracha is huge. Yeah.
And today you are, you can say that you are famous in the internet as the Roccat Reddit guy. So that's a bit like your nickname in the internet, I would say. How did you become part of Roccat and this whole world of esports?
So the first time I got in contact with esports was actually, the first time was, through my ex-girlfriend. She was like really, really good in StarCraft, like insanely good. That's how I also got into StarCraft kind of thing. And like really like watching streams and stuff like that happened with League of Legends. So I was just playing, and then somebody took like Nidalee. This is a champion in League of Legends for you. Yeah. And like somebody landed a crazy spear. Like you can throw a spear with Nidalee. And someone's like, "Oh, hotshot GG," you know? I was like, what is he talking about? I don't understand, you know? And then I Googled it, who is hotshot GG? And then I saw like, oh, there's like a pro scene. Like there are people playing and getting money and stuff like that. And then I started following it a little bit. Actually, through the pro scene, I got to Reddit, St. Vicious. Like I didn't know Reddit before League of Legends. But I watch St. Vicious streams a lot on Own 3D or Owned TV back then. And I saw he was always on this Reddit page and looking up news and stuff like that. So that's how I got into contact with Reddit. And the way I ended up here in Roccat was after my studies here at the University of Hamburg, I was looking for a job. And then I saw like, there's an internship for Roccat. For this company, and my first thing was like, what are they doing in Hamburg? Because I thought it was like an American brand, but it wasn't. Yeah,
many people think Roccat is an American brand, but in fact it's based here in Germany, in Hamburg.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, it was like, I only had one Roccat item before I started here. It was like the Apuri. It's like a mouse bungee, and it was so freaking expensive already back then for me. Like Roccat for me was always so expensive, and I was like low key just buying like cheap stuff. And then I was like, okay, I don't really want to do an internship, because like all the professors usually tell you not to take like any internships, because they just want to kind of rob you, you know? Like if you have this degree, you should work a full job.
But on the other hand, it's really usual today that you first have to do an internship.
Yeah. For me also, because I did a lot of sports in my free time, I didn't really work. So I was always just doing sports in my free time. So I didn't have like this kind of experience. And then I thought like, okay, gaming. So maybe I should apply. And it was the only internship I applied. Yeah. The other ones, I didn't even look at it. And I wrote this email applying to it. And like 10 minutes later, my phone was ringing. Was like, okay. So I picked up and I was like, hey, here's Francisca back then. I don't think you know her. Yeah. She's like, hey, when can you start? I was like, okay, who's there? Like, oh, yeah, Roccat, I just saw your application came in and stuff. I was like, whoa, this is fast. And they're like, yeah, if you want to come next week, and then we do a meeting and stuff like that. And then I came. Actually, they postponed it a week later. I was like, okay, maybe they are not sure anymore. But yeah, then I came in like, you know, like how you dress up as like a candidate. But I knew it was like a gaming company, so I didn't.
But you were like wearing a suit. Okay,
no, I wasn't
just
wearing
part suit.
Like jeans and like like nice shoes and a shirt, button-up shirt. And I came in here and like they came in here with like shorts, tank tops, and flip flops. I was like, okay. And then my former boss, Marcus, he looked at me and was like, do you usually dress like that? I was like, no. He's like, oh, did nobody told you to dress like you usually dress? It's like, no, and nobody told me, you know? Yeah. It's like, okay. It was like, oh, cool office. The office was insane when I came in here the first time. It's like, what? Wow, what kind of office is that? It doesn't look like the usual office. So we had this talk, and actually the first question I got asked was, do you play any games? It's like, yes, League of Legends. And like, how high are you in League of Legends? Back then I was Diamond 2. When I had the free time to play. And then he was like instantly, okay, you're hired.
Really?
Yes.
Just because you were Diamond 2?
I mean, it was a joke.
Yeah, okay.
But
the job interview went on.
Exactly. And actually, I got a result after the meeting already. So they told me to leave the room, and then they talked about it 10 minutes, and then they was like, yeah, we want you.
Awesome. Okay.
And afterwards, I learned that they usually don't do that. They usually just tell you to go home, and then they will call you back, stuff like that. So that's how I got my first internship.
Nice. They desperately needed a Diamond 2 player.
Yeah, I was instantly the highest player in Roccat. And yeah, Roccat already had their league team by then.
Oh, the league team was already founded then. So you didn't.
Yeah, they took over the Polish.
Yeah.
And I was already watching LCS.
But
regularly.
you joined Roccat in 2014. That was the year Roccat started playing in the European LCS, right?
So I came in here during the first split. Actually, in the middle of the split, I came. To Roccat. Yeah.
How can you describe that time? The foundation of a very new LCS team must have been very exciting.
To be honest, I didn't do a lot with Team Roccat.
Yeah.
In the
first days.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was like a marketing intern at first. So I was supposed to do like everything, you know?
Okay.
Like not just social media. But then I got like one of this, I did like all the tasks. I was kind of bored. And then they gave me like this internship task. Here, look at our social media channels and tell us what we can do better, blah, blah, blah. And for me back then, actually, I wrote my bachelor thesis on word to word, mouth to mouth.
Mouth to mouth?
No, word to word. No, is it mouth to mouth or word to word?
I'm not sure what it is in English.
Mouth to mouth. It's mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
Mouth to mouth in the internet. So it was kind of like about social. But back then I was like, no way I'm going to do like social media, you know? It's like an internship job, you know? There's no like ceiling to it. It's like a job for stupid people.
Yeah.
It was 2014, you know? So when I got this test, I started to look into like literature.
Books.
Okay. I can't. No, it wasn't books. It was online articles.
Yeah.
I can't say this word.
Literature. Literature.
Okay,
Literature. Say it 3 times in a row.
No. Literatur. No. And the more I looked into it, I saw that it's really scientific what you do with social media.
Yeah.
It's not like you just put stuff together and then it works. You have to really think about it and like really think what you do with everything. And I also love the fact that you can do something in marketing and you get instant results of it. So it's not like the usual marketing test. You work on something and then 6 months later, maybe you can get like some kind of result. But with social media, you post something, you get instant feedback.
Yeah.
Is it bad or is it good? So I really like that about that. So that's how I started to get involved in it. And then somehow I took over the Team Roccat channel as well, since I was the only one doing social media here. And to be honest, let me think. I'm not sure. I think Fly did a huge part in that, like getting me involved into like.
Fly was already here.
Yes. Fly got the team to Roccat. I never went to the gaming house in spring. I think I first met him at Gamescom, but I was already talking to him on Skype and Facebook and stuff like that. But the first time I met the team was at Gamescom, I think, when they played semifinals against Fnatic, where we lost 2-3 after leading 2-0, I think, and we could have won 2 Worlds that year. So that was my first experience, how we lose to get to to the world.
And we were talking about it very briefly in, I think, the first or second episode of this podcast. You were a substitute player for Team Roccat.
Yeah, I think 2015. It might have been that. Yeah, back then the regulation was only to be Diamond 5, so I was way over that. Yeah, it was only something on paper.
It was just on paper. You didn't really sit in the arena.
No. Yeah. And there was no fantasy LCS, so I couldn't draft myself. Or it's nowhere on the pages at League of Legends, because back then it was just like a former. I mean, still today subs don't mean really anything, since you usually just try to find someone who suits the team, and not like take the sub and put it in. But yeah, it was just a formality.
Is it true that Roccat was one of the very first companies that became active on Reddit?
I'm not sure if companies. I think some other companies did it as well. But for the esports League of Legends scene, we were the first team. I just say team now, since we are a team as well. And most people don't know, it's actually, like in Germany, we say Werksteam. Company team.
A company team, yeah.
So one of the only company teams in esports in total, because I think Roccat. I mean, if you look at it, Roccat was founded out of esports, since our CEO was active in the esports scene and wanted gear that works for esports. That's how we got, and we always had some teams, like CS:GO, not CS:GO, but CS 1.6 and. Counter-Strike Source, StarCraft 2.
We had a Roccat StarCraft 2 team?
Yeah, we had 2 players at one time.
Really?
KaJun and the Maga.
When was that?
That was when I started here.
All right. So,
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Do you know this whole story how Roccat got created? With the coordinates and stuff like that. Did I tell you that before?
I know parts of them, but please tell us, because it's a very interesting story. So yes. for me and the listeners.
Okay, so our CEO most probably don't know, but he was like the clan leader of MTW, which was like a huge clan in CS, and he wanted to found this company, and they thought about like how can we make some press, So what they did was they hired a CS team.
They wanted to have attention, public attention.
Exactly. They wanted to make a splash.
Yeah.
And they got a CS team and renamed it into coordinates. I'm not sure which one. I think it was North 69, East 24. I think so. So people started like questioning, what the hell? Who bought this team and why did they name them like this? You can imagine it like somebody bought Fnatic and just renamed it into coordinates. So it was like a huge discussion on boards. I think they were also fueled by Roccat employees undercover. And people start asking, why did they buy this? Why do they name this like this? And what the Roccat back then did, like they printed like energy drinks with the coordinates on it to fool those people. So like, it's an energy drink company. They want to promote a product, etc., etc. And actually, if you think about it, the esports team was before the actual company, because I think at Games Convention, which was like the early predecessor of the Gamescom in Leipzig, they changed it to Roccat. So that's where the company was revealed, but also the team got changed into Team Roccat. And I think the funny thing is, Team Roccat is not based on Pokemon, because that's the first thing I asked when I came here. Like, was it on purpose that you call it Team Roccat? Like, it sounds like the Team Roccat in Pokemon, but they're like, no. But we realized it too late. So no Pokemon fans back in the days, but. So the esports team is as old as the company itself. 10 years.
Wow.
Almost 11 years. Okay. So Reddit, right? So like I explained, I did the internship, etc., etc. So I took over the company, So I questioned myself, like, why are we not on Reddit? Because if I want to get news or anything like that, I always go to Reddit. Like, it's my daily newspaper.
It's your second home.
Yes, I was always on Reddit and lurking and stuff like that. I was like, why is no team on there? It would be so cool, like, if I could interact with a team there. So without asking, I just created an account. I just took that liberty back then. I think I was only here for 7 months, so it was like a big gamble. But actually, some co-workers of mine, like Flo and Andy, actually, they already were on Reddit for like Roccat. They actually did some kind of that before I came here. So I guess we were also the first one there. But yeah, then I started doing stuff there, you know, like I think the big splash where everyone got to know us was like when one guy who got diamond with just one arm. He played with one arm and with the mouse, like MMO mouse with a lot of buttons.
Okay. So he set all the buttons to his mouse.
Exactly. And back then we launched the NIF. And I was like, hey, this is perfect. This guy will love this mouse. So I just wrote like, hey, send us a message. We will give you a mouse. Like, it was really meant genuinely, you know, like not for marketing purposes. And it blew up like crazy. Like, people were like, oh, cool, this company is doing that, blah, blah, blah. So I started to get more involved into like charity streams and stuff like that, or get some people tickets to the LCS studio because they didn't manage to get some because they were late and it was sold out and stuff like that. So I think I didn't saw it as a marketing tool back then, but just a cool way to interact with people who liked our team, you know, like give them a chance to interact with us. So it's cool to see that other teams are doing it now. And like I said in the other interview, I would love that they would provide like more for the community and not just like writing like banter or stuff like that. But cool. That's how Roccat got on the Reddit.
You play American football in a very high league in German. Which league is it?
I just switched from first division to second division or second league.
Which team?
Right now?
Yeah.
Elmshorn Fighting Pirates.
Elmshorn Fighting Pirates. Is there something that esports could learn from American football, maybe? I know we had this question in our very first episode, but now I'm asking you.
I think actually football and League of Legends are really similar. Like
very tactical.
It's very tactical, you know, like let me think if it's also like with football. I think football is more like random, you know. And
you mean soccer?
Yeah,
football?
Soccer. I think you can have like one star player who can just carry the team.
Yeah.
I think that's how it was in like season 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But nowadays I don't think it works like that anymore.
Or one lucky hit can sometimes change a game. You mean that with random?
No. Just one player being so good that he can just carry the whole team. And I think in football or in soccer you can still do that if you're like really insane. I think with football, just the way you prepare and everything, I think it's way more ahead than football or soccer. Okay, we just call it soccer now.
Yeah, let's just say soccer.
So I think soccer is really, really back in regards of preparation and mentality and what you have to do to be like a professional. So yeah, I know some kind of structure from HSV Hamburg, which is not the best example, but I feel like soccer is more like baseball used to be. You know, a lot of like intuition and a lot of old traditions that they picked up, so they think it works best. And with football, I think since it's a fairly new sport, they have like a really, really different mindset about like sports. And in general, the US is way ahead in regards to sports, how people treat like everything, you know. So for example, I don't know, best example, probably most people don't know it, but like Klinsmann, when he came to Germany as a national coach for the soccer.
Klinsmann, one of the best known German soccer players of all time.
He was also the US coach back then, and he already lived like a long time in the US. So when he came to Germany to take over the national team, he brought like all this like core workout and stuff like that, you know, like lifting and stuff like that. And I remember the first weeks or months where they did like pictures of that, people were making fun of it.
Yeah.
You know, you maybe remember it a little bit.
Remember.
They're like, what are they doing? Gymnastics, yoga, like what does this have to do with football? You know?
Yeah.
And I think also his tenure or his coaching at Bayern Munich helped them a lot in this kind of regard, since they adopted this kind of style of how to prepare, you know. So most football teams in the Bundesliga still don't do that.
Yeah,
they just practice with the ball the whole time. And also from the other perspective, you know, like the player's perspective, they don't see their body as like their business, like it happens in the US, you know. Like if you follow US athletes, you can always see them working out or get treatment, you know, like have their personal staff coming in.
Are you talking now about
players,
American esports players?
No, like general sports.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just to get built up to that mentality, why it can help, you know. But like in the US, if you follow athletes, you can always see they have like somebody who do acupuncture for them or extra trainers. They train in their free time, you know. And if you follow like European football stars, all you can see is like they go out, they go eat, you know. Nobody invests in their like own infrastructure, you know. And for esports, I think I think maybe the US will be a lot better in that regard in esports, since they're more used to it. And you can see it already with like Liquid or some other teams that they are trying to implement that.
Yeah.
And I mean, 3 or 4 teams are from NBA teams, so they know how it works, the whole infrastructure behind it. So I think the US will be really, really good in a few years, because they put this focus on this infrastructure thing. And for Europe, I think it's more like, because of soccer, it's not regarded as important as it is in the US, I think. So I think Europe can learn a lot from the US perspective on how infrastructure can like impact the whole sports mentality, you know. Like for American football, what you always want to do is like prepare the players as close as possible to the competition, like the state of mind and also the surroundings and stuff like that, you know. So they do like crazy shit, like I don't know, pump in like crowd noise during practice, or I mean in sports it's easy, you can just run like crazy, so you're really tired, and then you have to really focus with your mind, which you can't like really replicate in esports, you know, because it comes from like concentration, this worn out state of situation where you can like train your mind to focus. It's not
so much about your muscles, it's about your mind and your reflexes and stuff. And
so exactly, so whenever this situation happens in a game, your body is used to it, you know. Like you don't have to think like, oh, I never felt this before, I should do that and that, you know. So in real sports, it's easy, you just run like crazy and you're like out of breath, and then you have to concentrate on something. I mean, you could do it in esports as well, but it's not the same kind of concentration you need in the game, you know?
Yeah, of course. You can compare esports more to, let's say, chess, for example, than football, you know?
And it's a huge difference. Like, if you, like, I can play League for like 12 or 13 hours straight. Like, I don't bother, like solo queue and stuff like that, you know? But back then, I actually played like, I wasn't like semi-professional, but we played in like tournaments where we only had like 4 matches, you know? And those 4 matches, after the second one, I was dead.
You were exhausted.
I was exhausted like hell. Like I was like, oh no, I don't want to play anymore. It's so exhausting, because your body is a complete different state.
That's interesting.
That's also the problem with like scrimming, like right now in the professional environment. It's really hard to replicate
this situation and
the emotions and the adrenaline and everything without getting there. I mean, you have the same problem in sports, but I think it's easier in sports to replicate what happens on esports. And I think Echo Fox kind of tried it, because I think they built the stage exactly like the one they have on the studios there over there. But yeah.
The pressure has to be real, right?
Yes, but
you can't simulate it.
And it's really hard to. I think most coaches don't focus on that,
And in the let's say convenient sports, there are also a lot of psychologists, for example, that are working with the players. But I don't have the feeling that in the world of esports this happens a lot.
I think esports is like in European hemisphere.
Yeah,
I think esports is way ahead.
Really?
Regarding psychologists, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you know, but like if a German football team has like a psychologist, everyone's like, oh, why do they need a psychologist?
Yeah.
I think you need some kind of psychologist. I think just that also helps you like in communication. It's not like a usual psychologist where you tell them all the problems you have, stuff like that. Okay, that's what they are for as well. But also for team communication, like just to have like this third perspective out of this inner circle with the people you're always together with, that tells you like, oh, this guy is right, or this guy can't be loud, because if you're in the circle, you can't like really voice your opinion without somebody feeling attacked. So that helped us a lot actually in the spring split last season, when we got Ulla in, and she could like voice her opinion without people feeling like she already has like a opinion set, because she was freshly in there and didn't have like any opinions and favorite players or whatever. So I think in that regard, esports is way ahead. I think because the Americans did it first, so Europe kind of followed it.
Tien, you saw a lot of players come and go, not only in Team Roccat. What do you think about the current team?
The current one, I think it's probably the most professional one we have. Also, personality-wise, they match really well together.
Do you just say that because we are now at the podcast and
No.
And you don't want to say something bad about the people who listen to that?
So I actually got like a 2 or 3 week insight into the team, because when was it? Was it 2000? What we have 16, I think I was there when it was like really going downhill for us. They, because of my sports background, they thought it was a good idea to send me there and to like implement like stuff I learned through my career. And what I saw is it's really, really important that you have 5 people who can also work together outside of the game, since they are all in this one place, and and I think the meta currently is already changed to that a good team will always beat a team with 5 good individual players.
Yeah.
So like in real sports, like a good mentality or a good team can beat. And for league, it's only 5 players, Like for football, if you have 11 players or 23 in the whole roster, it's hard to get like one mentality going, Then the idea of being the best should be above everything, But with this, also because they all live together, I think it's really, really important that those 5 people kind of have the same thinking, the same mentality, Like you can't have like 3 jokester and then 2 are serious and don't like it at all, because it will create tension outside of the game and it will lead up to this, or it will take over the game as well. So I always try to push like fly. Hey, go for mentality, you know.
Yeah.
Like individual skill, okay, it's important, but I think like mentality is so important because you can't work with like cocky players are really tough to work with, you know. Like if you have 5 cocky players, then it works again, you know, because they all like have this kind of mentality and then they can all go together. But with 5 cocky players, it's kind of dangerous because if you go on a losing streak, they will isolate, you know. And with this 5 guys now, they don't have an ego. They don't care about like their own personal performance. If in the end there's a W, you know, and that's a really, really good mix, and I hope we can keep thinking that. I mean, I guess for the summer split, they have a contract. So when most people like see rosters and stuff like that, they don't think about that, you know. They just see like good players moving to good players, good teams, and then you think like, oh, this team is gonna be good, but you don't see the mentality or the personalities behind it. And I mean, that's why dream teams never work out, you know. Like in the NFL, you had the Eagles, which was a dream team already, you know. Everybody called them dream team because they had insane players on every position, but they lost. Like they were really, really bad. I mean, the only dream team maybe that right now works is the Golden State Warriors, kinda. But you only put one player into this environment, you know, because they already had like 4 or 5 players who were really good and already grew in this environment. So, I mean, for us, the best example is Memento, you know. Like before the split, nobody would say he was the top 3 jungler in EU. Right now, most people say he's one of the best junglers in EU.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's his personal performance, but his performance in this team. So people also perform different in what kind of team they are. And other teams, like, I don't know, like Schalke, everybody thought they're going to be insane just based on their individual talent. But even with such a big staff, you know, you can't just match personalities together that don't fit. Like, I'm not saying they don't have personalities that don't fit together, because I don't know. Or I know 3 players, but I don't have a clue about their mentality.
You can't force it.
Yeah. Or for us, for example, it was Maxlor, you know? Like, nobody understood why we would kind of... Like, it was mutual. He wanted to get out, and we thought it wouldn't work out with him. So that was more like a mentality issue, you know? Like, it wasn't like his issue, his mentality was bad, but it just didn't fit with the other 4. And then it can become really toxic with like no side being right or wrong. So that was the reason why we took Maxlor out.
Well, let's talk about Roccat and the playoffs. This weekend, when we all knew, okay, we made it, we're in the playoffs, what was your first thought?
I knew we were going to the playoffs.
You knew it from the start.
Yes.
Yeah, last weekend a victory against Misfits and a defeat against H2K. We are in the playoffs, clashing Splice the next weekend. What changes for the team now that they are in the playoffs?
I think the mentality will change, you know, because it's so much different to play regular season than playoffs in every sport. Because it doesn't matter how good you are or what your potential is, but it matters what you can show on that day at this time on stage. And I mean, the best example is the basketball college March Madness right now. You're probably not familiar with it.
No,
it's like
please explain for us.
Huge college tournament in March, and they always call it March Madness because it's getting
in the US.
Yes, college basketball. And what happened is like one of the best 4 teams lost to one of the worst 4 teams.
Okay,
and that never happened. You know?
Wow. Yeah.
And on that moment, nothing matters, you know, like money, infrastructure, nothing matters. It matters what you can bring on or who, it sounds cliche, but who wants it the most, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like our players will be really good in best of 5, because I think they really, really, really want to win. And what changes for them? Yeah, you have to prepare different strategies, you know? And also you have to prepare to adapt, because if you like run one strategy and it doesn't work for the first game, you have to change it. And then also like adapt to the mentality. So I'm not sure. Like all 5 should have experience with best of 5, but I don't know how they will work as a team. But for me, or my hope is, because they always bounce. You can always see like an improvement from Friday to Saturday, usually in the regular season. So that tells me like they are ready to fix problems in like a really short amount of time, and it doesn't bother them like for the next game.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a big plus they can maybe use. But yeah, Splice, I'm not sure how Splice is gonna do in best of 5, but they have really experienced players who played a lot of best of 5s. Yeah.
Have you ever been in a playoff in American football or wherever?
Yes. Since playoffs is more like a US model. Yeah, I've been in it in an American Football League.
Yeah.
We had to drive all the way to the south, Schwäbisch Hall, and then lost.
And then it's all or nothing, and you lost.
You prepare different, you know. You go into the game differently. You're like way more focused. Everyone's way more focused.
A lot more pressure.
Yeah, but it's not. It's like really good pressure, you know.
Okay.
Like it's not like, oh shit, I have to do this, or fuck, I messed up, you know. But you're like, okay, this is your chance. I have to take it, you know, and no, I don't know when is the next chance, you know. So it's really like a really good. For me, it's a really good pressure, because you usually also perform way better in that environment.
Do you want to predict how far Roccat will make it this year in this playoff phase?
Fnatic is really, 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 really good, and I think if we beat Splice, we would have to face Fnatic. So, yeah, it's a gamble. I'm confident that we can beat Splice. I would say top 3 would be possible.
Okay,
which would, help us to go to Rift Rivals, which happens in the US. So that would help the team a lot, I think, if they can gain more experience against other teams as well. So I hope they can crack top 3.
Let's see, man. Let's see. All right, Tien. Thank you very much for that interview.
That's it.
For getting to know you better. Usually in the end of the interview, we're asking our players what Roccat gear they use when they are playing. So you are not a professional esports player, but hey, man, you played in Diamond 2. So what gear do you use?
I have a Ryers TKL. 10 key less, so it's a little bit shorter, so I have more space for my mouse. I use the Taito King size. And actually, I use the special version of the Compure All-Eye. So I have a different coating on it. Yeah.
Something that is only accessible for Roccat.
Actually, only I have one here in the office, I think. Because there was a different coating, and also I modded it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I put another cable on it and different mouse feeds and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a Compure All-Eye.
Yeah.
And Khan Pro.
And for all who listen to that podcast, right now we are recording with the Roccat Khan Pro headsets. All right. Well, dear listeners, please follow us on Facebook, follow Roccat on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. If you have questions, if you have feedback, use the hashtag ESPORTS ROCSTARS. Please give us an iTunes rating. You can listen to that show via YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and the podcast app of your choice. Any last words, Tien?
Let's get a win on Friday.
Yeah, let's get a win on Friday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.